Hi there and welcome to this training video from S-Craft. My name's Mark Duell and I'm the Senior Surveyor and Trainer for the company. Today we're going to be talking you through tracked shutters and things to look out for and take into consideration when surveying. Before surveying, make sure you have the right equipment so you can carry out the survey quickly and easily. You'll need a good quality tape measure, spirit level and your trusty S-Craft survey pad. You may wish to check squareness with a telescopic measuring stick, but a tape measure should do the job absolutely fine. A digital camera or smartphone may also be a good idea for taking pictures of the window or recess. It is absolutely critical to get the measurements exact for all track shutters, so the survey is mainly going to be based on your initial conversation about the variables with what the customer wants. Firstly, you'll need to know where the shutters are going. Tracks are perfect for large windows, patio doors, room dividers and for built-in wardrobes. Once the customer's decided, they'll also need to decide whether they want bifold or bypass. They both do what they say. One folds panels on the track, the other bypasses them. With bypass, you need to remember there's always at least one panel width covering the opening or window. With bifolds, it's recommended that panels are hinged in pairs, as odd numbers leave a spare panel which will flap around. The position and style of the shutters can affect whether they are fitted inside or outside the recess. Both require different measurements, so this needs to be decided with the customer before taking any readings. If there are prominent hinges or other obstacles, then this will also affect the customer's choice. You need to allow enough space for the louvers when they're open to avoid any existing features. When surveying for tracks, you'll also need to find out what they'll be attaching to. As all the weight is going to be on the top frame, they will need to be properly secured, so can't be fixed into just plasterboard. Although the weight will only be on its top track, it's worth discussing whether the customer would like side frames. They finish the shutters really neatly and make installing a three-sided frame straightforward. As well as side frame, you'll also need to consider what happens at the bottom. I would definitely recommend either track and board or M profile, as they manage the panels and give a smooth operation when hinging the shutters open. You need to manage the customer's expectations, however, as the track and board technically counts as a trip hazard. It's sometimes the only option you've got based on the fixing surface beneath, such as thick pile carpets. What we're going to survey for today is a bifold free floating mounted within the recess. Once you've decided on the variables, you can measure where the track is going to be fitted. Measure width in at least 4 places and take multiple height readings. This will give a good idea of how parallel the opening is. It is paramount to ensure that the top section will be able to be mounted level. It's also worth checking the sides with a spirit level to check for differences. You can also use a telescopic measuring stick to check the diagonals, as again this will indicate whether the opening is square. If the shutters are for inside the recess, then the dimensions you'll need are just the width at its narrowest, minus 5mm, as well as the drop at its shallowest, deducting 3mm. If you're going for an outside recess fit, then measure the width, adding 120mm to overlap both sides. Also measure the height of the recess, adding at least 115mm. This ensures space for the header rail. As well as this addition, you'll also need to factor in another 38.1mm for outside recess installs. This is for a bracket provided by the factory for securely fixing the frame to the wall. The overall height will then cover from the floor to the top of the pelmet. You don't need to deduct further height from the drop measurements if the shutter is having a bottom rail. The factory will take this off from the overall height you provide. You just need to specify the M track or the track and board on the order. The standard track frame is always an Insert L frame 76mm deep. This can accommodate up to 114mm louvers. You'll need to bear this in mind when working out where the shutters sit so they don't catch on any hinges or window mechanisms. As most tracks are used for larger windows or spaces, you may need to think about adding a mid-rail. Mid-rails are needed for panels higher than 1800mm, 1900 in MDF and ABS, to give rigidity and strength. The position for mid-rails is dependent on the layout of the windows and doors. However, it can only be placed in as much as the factory tolerances will allow, which you can find in the product specification. There is obviously a lot to remember for track shutters, so remember to talk through the variables with the customer before you start measuring. Firstly, always refer to technical specifications for necessary allowances and product details. These will also help remind you about the panel width restrictions which still apply, as with all standard shutters. Secondly, check you've taken off all the necessary allowances or added additional height for the top bracket outside the recess. Thirdly, confirm with the customer whether the panels need to be hinged or free floating. It doesn't affect the measurements, but does need to be included in the order notes. If the customer wants by pass track, do the shutters need to be able to pass with the louvers open or just closed? This will also need to be recorded as it affects the distance between the tracks. Fifth, if you need a mid-rail, have you recorded the height needed? Remember, you need to establish what is above the recess. Is there a strong enough material to fix the top frame and headrail? Finally, check how you can secure the bottom guide. Thank you for watching our video today on how to measure track shutters. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of this fairly difficult product.